And we're live. Welcome to episode 29 of Orab Sports Complex. Talk sports to me. I'm your host, the sports guru. This week's series is titled She's Got Game, Divas of the Hardwood. In this series, closer look at women's athletics and the struggle women face for equality in sports. We have another star-studded cast of guests again this week, starting with tonight's guest, Shalon. This episode 29 is brought to you by Anchor.fm and Orab Sports Complex. All syndications of this podcast and past podcasts are available on the following streaming sites: Anchor.fm, Radio Public, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Breaker Radio, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Equality is defined as the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, or opportunity. And our guest will join us in just a couple of minutes, and she will give us her take on some of the obstacles and hurdles that she had to overcome being a female athlete in what is considered a man's sport. The female athlete has always had to run the fastest, jump the highest, be the toughest, and the most prolific player on the court, field, or course to be a household name and to really be known. And in every women's sport, it seems like when you attend the sport, the crowd sizes are smaller. The amount of revenue that is generated is smaller. The amount of respect that is given to the female athlete that's involved from a lot of people is less. And it's just not the same as the men's game. The number of women with endorsement deals is so much lower than that of men. And the number of men with lucrative professional contracts is much higher than that of women, especially here in the United States. Women struggle to get a pretty substantial or lucrative payday in professional sports in the United States. There are several sports such as tennis and golf where women do make a lot of money, but other sports, they just don't make as much money. These are all facts of common knowledge. But what is not understood is, and what is often questioned is why. And people just don't know why. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about this week. We're going to dig deep off into why women's athletics just doesn't get the same amount of respect as that of men. There are many women who have excelled in every sport that men have excelled in. There's been Shamika Holtzclaw, who played at the University of Tennessee and, at the same school that our guest played at tonight. And she'll speak on her a little bit and her greatness. But, Shamika Holtzclaw, and I'm a basketball guy, was probably one of the best top 5 players in the country, men or women, when she was at the University of Tennessee. But it wasn't viewed as that way because she was a woman. And there's really no documented rhyme or reason why women struggle to get the respect that they deserve, because they fight for it. And women work as hard as men. And although women may lack the size or athletic ability of men, they still share the same work ethic, the same desire, the same determination, the same drive, and ultimately the same dreams as that of men. And this week in our She Got Game, Divas of the Hardwood series, we will talk to our guest about the struggles and adversities that them as women athletes face in the world of sports and the fight for respect and equality. Something I dug a little deep into was the revenue for men's and women's sports. And as professionals, the professional revenue for women is 4% lower than that of men, and paid to men. And women very rarely, in most situations, can make a living as a professional athlete without doing something else. A lot of people don't know that professional athletes that play in the WNBA also go to Europe during the winter months and play basketball in Europe, because the pay over there is so much better than that of the WNBA. And one of the things that is hard for women to do in the United States, and especially now with our government and some of the situations that we have going on now, is to be successful enough through sports to make life financially easy for them and their families, just being an athlete. And just a couple examples, tennis and golf are two sports that, in the United States, women can excel out, make a career at. The Williams sisters, Martina Navratilova, dating back into the 70s and 80s, women have made lucrative livings playing tennis. But here in the United States, we have the MLB, but we don't have necessarily a professional women's softball association. If we do, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. And which means if I've never heard of it, I've never seen it, and it's not on ESPN, it's probably not something that they're paid very well to do. Many athletes have to go to Europe and play a lot of different sports. It's not just basketball, a lot of different sports. There's better professional soccer leagues for women in Europe. And it gives them an opportunity to pursue their dreams and to make a living for themselves. The question that you have to ask yourself is, do you want to spend your whole life abroad to pursue a dream of being a professional athlete? Now, one of the things that facts and research have shown is that men have more muscle mass, and there's no question about that. And so through them having more muscle mass, men are typically bigger, faster, stronger, and more athletic. But does that make the woman less worthy of still being appreciated and rewarded for their hard work, dedication, and commitment? And that's what is put forth from any athlete at any level, at any stage. All the great ones put in hard work, dedication, and commitment. And the only thing that me being a former athlete and talking to athletes on this show every day, one of the things that the athlete ever wants, and the only thing that we ever want, is the respect that we deserve, because that's what we play for. We play for respect, and we play for championships. That's all I ever played for, and that's all most great athletes ever play for, is respect and championships. Most importantly, the love of the game. But if you don't love the game, at some point you will stop to play the game. But when you get to the higher levels, it's for respect and it's for championships. And we will get more and more in depth with that and the research that I've done this week as we move forward. But tonight, I want to go ahead and move into our guest, a lifelong basketball lover, a lady that is passionate about the game, played the game with a passion, and now she's sharing her passion through coaching. In 1998, as a high school senior, she was a Nike and Parade Magazine High School All-American. She averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 3 steals per game her senior year. She was decorated and given the honor of being one of USA Today's top 20 scholastic athletes on the female side. She was selected as a finalist for the Naismith High School Girls Player of the Year Award. She played for her father, Coach Dan Pillow at Taylor High School, who was also an exceptional athlete. And after completing her high school career, she signed a letter of intent to play in, at that time, which was the most powerful female girls basketball program in the country, and that was the University of Tennessee under Hall of Fame coach Pat Summitt. She completed her 4-year career at the University of Tennessee. Fast forward, she became an assistant at the University of Kentucky under Coach Matt Mitchell, a brilliant man, where she was part of a staff that led UK to 3 late Elite 8 tournament runs. She is currently at Middle Tennessee State and has been part of several postseason experiences there. My dog, my homie from way, way back, number 50, Miss Shalon Pillow. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Jason? How are you?
I'm well. How's quarantine life treating you?
You know what? It's not too terrible. We have good weather down here in Tennessee. Get some time to catch up on some things you don't get to do during the season around the house. So I don't have too many complaints, really.
Has it been hard keeping in touch with your players, with them all being back home during this shutdown?
No, not at all. I mean, technology has been such a benefit with Zoom and FaceTime and things along those sorts. We meet with our players once a week via Zoom. And then as far as academics, that can be challenging sometimes because we don't have that face-to-face interaction, or we can't just pull them in our office and say, sit down, you're about to do this work. That can be challenging at times. But overall, I mean, we do a pretty good job of keeping in contact and communication with our team.
That's great. That's something I've been curious about since the shutdown. So tell us a little bit about your season this season, and where was your team in terms of postseason possibilities?
Well, we had a really good season. We had some good wins out of non-conference, and we finished fourth in our conference. It came down to the last game of regular season. It was an exciting game on the road against Charlotte, and we won, which solidified our fourth place and a seed and a bye and everything for the conference tournament. We were playing some of our best basketball. Went down to Texas for our conference tournament. Was focused, was ready. Our girls had a real hunger and determination about winning the SEC our Conference USA championship. And 5 minutes before tip-off in our first game, they called the tournament off. So it was devastating. It was devastating to our players. It was devastating to the staff. They worked so hard, and it was just taken away from us just like that. A lesson learned to our team for sure. I told them they got that lesson for free. We always talk about playing each possession as hard as you can and don't take the game for granted because it can be taken away from you at any time. And right there, it got taken away from us. And luckily, it wasn't to anything tragic to any individual. I mean, of course, COVID-19 is tragic, but they got that feeling of what it's like to just have something that they love so dear taken away from them instantly.
Yeah, my Uncle Dean talks a lot about, and he always has, he tells our seniors, and he'll tell everybody, first conditioning of the year, he'll say, enjoy this, relish it. It's going to, this next 5 weeks of conditioning is going to be terrible, but the season will be over just like that. And our seniors this year really got to experience that. Unfortunately for the high school kids, they got to finish their season in terms of people that didn't make it, deep in the tournament. But, there's a lot of kids, especially high school seniors and college seniors, who had that taken from them. And I couldn't imagine what that feeling would be like. To your knowledge, are your players pretty well remaining, safe, and nobody's, gotten sick, or, none of their immediate families have suffered the illness and are struggling with it or anything like that?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. None of our players or their families or anything have had any direct impact as far as the illness. I know our head coach, his mother is in her 90s, and she's been staying safe. So, I mean, everybody's doing well.
So I want to start from the beginning. How were you introduced to basketball, and how did you always have a passion for it? As long as I can remember, to us being back, to being kids, you and I have always talked basketball, and always, and basketball's kind of been our common denominator. Did you have that passion growing up, or did it, the whole time, or did it grow over time?
No, I mean, I was a daddy's girl, and my dad played all kinds of sports, and I tagged along with him everywhere. So that's just how I got a love for sports in general, not just basketball. I was at the softball field with him. I was in the basketball courts. If he was playing a men's league, or if we're just playing over the playground. So it was just always part of my life. We watched together, everything. So, I mean, it's just always been part of our whole family's life, sports. And I didn't know life without it, really. So It was just ingrained in me.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, and that's, you just spoke on it with being a part of your family's life. And a lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to expand on it a little bit, but most people who know you or know Brian, but don't know you really well, just know of the two of you, don't know that you are Xavier University legend and NBA star Brian Grant's first cousin. Your moms are sisters. And Brian is about 8 years older than you. How much of an impact did Brian's career growing up help impact the direction that you would aspire to go, knowing that it could happen?
He was a great impact and influence, especially just being right down the road at Xavier. And, our Addison, where I grew up, was just about 20 minutes from there. So often he and his teammates would come to the house for a home-cooked meal. We were always at his games. Mm-hmm. And, growing up, and, I mean, him being 8 years older, I was still in middle school during his career. But it was just so fascinating. It's my first introduction to really collegiate basketball and even women's collegiate basketball, because by Brian going to Xavier being there, I was going to the Lady Musketeers games and to their open gyms and camps and everything like that. So, I mean, that really was an early influence around 11, getting introduced to the collegiate game.
Yeah. I remember those old games at Cincinnati Gardens and being there. And while at those games, did you know that you wanted to play high-level basketball at that time? Like, did you know that, like, this is something, I want to do? I know for me, when they would come out of the tunnel and I'd hear the pep band and, I'd be excited. And I knew at that point, like, that was the first time I'd ever been to a college game. For those 4 years, my uncle had season tickets and we went to every game at home. And, like, I knew then, like, I want to do this. Is that what did it for you?
I'm going to be honest. I started AAU, 7th grade, and that's when I first started getting letters. And I just played because it was fun. That's what I like to do. It was my thing. And then not until I started getting, the questionnaires and things like the generic letters around 7th grade that I didn't even know it was a possibility. I never even thought about college. And then, like I said, about the same time, Brian's going to college. And I'm like, wow, this is a real thing. So it all kind of went hand in hand. Me knowing, I just like, oh, well, shoot. So after high school, I go to college to play. That's what Brian did. So,
right.
Like, this not even, like, really having the full concept of how everything works.
How it all worked, yeah. So at this point, we're going to jump into one of my favorite parts of the conversation, and I'm going to tell a little story about this individual, but the part where we talk about the mayor, Coach Dan Pillow, and
yes.
How much did your pops motivate you and push you toward continued development? And, before you go into that, we were at our sectional tournament, which we've been fortunate. Our sectional is at Addison every year, and it's far, but it gives – and as you know, your cousin Brandon is on my staff and does a great job. And my Uncle Dean is on my staff, and him and your dad know each other well. And so it gives us a chance to get out there and them see us play a game or two if we're fortunate. And a couple of years ago, we were playing Euler, and they had a really good team. They were 17-5 in the regular season. We had only won 4 games in the regular season, and they had a really good player, and I didn't know, I was making in-game adjustments, and we were keeping it close. And, at some point he told Brandon, I don't know how the conversation transpired. I was probably up stomping my feet and yelling at a referee or something, but your dad told Brandon, hey, you guys might want to look at a boxing one right here. This kid's the only kid that's hurting you. Slow him down. You might be able to keep it close and win the game. And we hadn't really worked on a boxing one at all, but I knew the concept of it. So I called a timeout and I went over it with the kids. And there was a kid who had played all year that was struggling offensively, and he wasn't doing well. And so I wasn't going to play him in the tournament. And I ended up telling that kid, like, hey, you're going to guard number whatever, follow him around. If he goes to the bench, go with him. If he goes to the bathroom, go with him. This is your guy. You shut his water off and we win. And we ended up beating Euler, and they were the number 3 seed, and we were the number 11 or 12 seed or something like that. And we beat them 42-39. And that's probably one of my biggest wins in my coaching career. And it was all because the mayor was sitting behind the bench and said, hey, you might want to go boxing one and slow this guy down right here. So tell us a little bit about your dad and your parents and, what they mean to you and how much they impact, how much of an impact they had to your athletic career.
Well, the mayor, DP, Dan Pillow, no, he's got a lot of names, but that's dad and daddy to me. And he was my first coach, and he'll always be my coach for sure. Throughout my coaching career and everything, he's always got good feedback, and he definitely is the most influential person in my life when it comes to basketball. That's where we have our bond. We spend a lot of time, a lot of summers, a lot of hours in the gym, and he is the reason why I got to Tennessee, and from Tennessee was able to play a little bit more and then dive into coaching. So, I mean, I can go on all day.
Right.
About about DP, but
I think most people who know him could. Like
right.
the one thing, like people in Addison think that myself and my team and my coaching staff are very, very, very important because he comes to watch us play. Like we get first class treatment when we go there. Like Larry Hergis or whatever, the athletic director, we go there and he's like, you talk to coach, you guys doing well, you need anything, hospitality room, you need some towels. We get the best locker room, we get the best of everything when we go to Addison because, the mayor comes to watch us play every year, and so I've never heard anybody from anywhere say anything bad about him. He's real mild-mannered and reserved, and he's a basketball genius. You had one of the intangible traits that every player at every level dreams for, and that is size. But with that size, from a very young age, you were very skilled. Like you were a really good basketball player. You weren't just bigger than everybody else and could just rebound and stick back. You had skill. You had post moves, and you could handle a little bit, and you played good team defense, and you were a really good basketball player for your size. How did you, what type of skill work did you do? And this question's for the younger kids that are watching. What type of skill work did you do developing your game, to be one of the best high school players in the country?
Well, again, it goes back to my dad. I mean, he started out coaching men, so there was a lot of 6'4" guys or smaller guys that may not grow anymore. So that was always his big thing. Like, well, if you want to go to the next level, you need to make sure you have all your skill sets together, because who knows if, like when I was smaller and 5'10", well, if 5'10" is all I grow to be, I'm not going to be a post player. So let's make sure we work on that range, work on those ball handling skills, and very well, I grew to be 6'4", so those things still came into play, which expanded my game. I couldn't just be held down on the block.
Right.
I could step away and I could shoot. So that's something that I take along in my coaching as well. I develop post players at MTSU, so I always teach them, you got to have a broad skill set. You just don't want to be pigeonholed into, all she does is go over her left shoulder on the block. Like, no, you're going to have to face up. We're going to have to do all that. Because, the big man is kind of extinct as far as post players are concerned. Mm-hmm. So when I was at Kentucky, even, I got away from, like, the back to the basket,
skill work,
left shoulder, all that. I mean, it just became a whole package. You have to know how to do everything at the way the game is played now.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, the game has went – it's funny because – women's players make the majority, professional women's players make better money in Europe than they do in the United States typically. And so, and that's not for your Diana Taurasi's. That's for your mid to lower level player. Your top players still make a lot of money in both leagues, but it's the game has went European and in men's and women's. It's went more European. 6'6" guys that do everything. 6'8"
right.
guys that do everything. Again, back to Coach Pillow. He was an amazing athlete in his own right at Taylor High School. Every year we go, we look at his plaque on the wall and see, all the accolades that he had as a player and as a coach. Did you ever feel any pressure to follow in his footsteps, or was your whole objective to create your own legacy?
No, there was no pressure at all. It was great that my dad wanted me to have my career. He didn't want it to have anything to do with him. He was just there to help me get to my goals and reach my goals. And that is something that is so refreshing, especially now. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people trying to live through
their kids. Yes.
Their kids. Mm-hmm. And
it's bad.
I just think about how lucky and blessed I was to have a support group with my mom and dad both, who just wanted to see me do my very best and excel. It had nothing to do with what they did or didn't do as children or young adults. It was all about how can we get our child to play at their highest level and perform at their highest level.
So your high school career comes to an end. You're top 20 players in the country. could have went to any school in the country, and it didn't end in a state championship the way that you would have liked, but now you're on the road and you're headed south 75 to Knoxville, going to Vols country, and you were going to the best girls program in the country at that time. How was that experience? And were you nervous? Were you scared? Were you prepared? You were prepared, but what feelings was it?
Well, I was really excited about going to Tennessee. The story that my mom and dad both like to tell is that when they dropped me off the dorms, I was like, all right, y'all, I'll see you. Looks like this person over here having a hard time. I'm going to talk to them, make sure they're okay, getting adjusted. Like, I was just ready, excited. I mean, I couldn't tell you. It was just amazing that I was playing at a school who just won 3 national championships in a row. At that time, I mean, when I was in it, I didn't realize how amazing Pat was. But, I mean, she just wrote a book, and she's on a book tour, and she was on all these news shows and morning shows and everything. It was just a really exciting experience. And I was very, very confident going into Tennessee. But as soon as those practices started, you learn very quickly everybody's an All-American.
Right.
Everybody has worked very hard to get to this spot, and you're not the top dog anymore. Like, you got to take your game to another level. You got to work at a different pace, So that was the biggest adjustment, and it is always a big adjustment, I think, for bigs making that high school to college, because in high school you're just told, just keep your arms up, don't foul, we can't get you into foul trouble, But once you get to college, it's a whole other game. I mean, you got to be agile, you got to be moving, you got to be sprinting. I mean, it's a whole different pace.
So now you're there, and you've established. Now, was Shamika Holdsclaw still there, or had she graduated?
No, she was.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
You said she was a senior?
Yes, she was a senior my freshman year.
Gotcha.
So I only got to play with her 1 year.
She was amazing as well. So tell us about Pat Summitt. And in my opinion, Pat Summitt is the greatest women's coach of all time, and she's the GOAT, and she may be the best coach of all time. You can put her up there with your John Woodens and your Mike Krzyzewskis, and she was really incredible, and something that Pat Summitt had about her that a lot of other women's coaches didn't have at that time. And now you've got Muffin McGraw and Don Staley, and there's other coaches now that bring it like that. But she was tough, and she brought it, like she would grab your shirt and pull you to her and talk to you. What was that experience like? And what did you learn along the way? Some life lessons that help you now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was very intense. Our practices were very, very intense. They were high-paced, high energy. Most everything was a competitive drill and full court. So, I mean, like I said, that was an adjustment, the pace to play. Pat was a beast for sure on the court, but off the court, she was there to take care of us and make sure we had everything we needed, make sure we're prepared for life after basketball, for our schoolwork and things like that. So she had a good balance. It's just that people didn't see that because they didn't see her on TV. All they see her is yelling and screaming and snatching it up, which people will probably get fired for now.
Yeah, that was right. You can't do that anymore.
but she was a good person all the way around.
I went down to Chris Lofton we do his camp down in Knoxville every year, and we go over to Thompson Bowling Arena, and the facilities there now are incredible. I know they weren't there quite like that when you were there, but the men's and women's facility, the practice facility, and the weight rooms, and the gyms and the refreshments and everything is just top notch, and everything in Knoxville, Tennessee, has got Chris Lofton or Pat Summitt's name on it, or Shamika Holdsclaw's name on it. And I always give Chris a hard time. I'm like, do they know that anybody else played here besides you, Shamika Holdsclaw, and that Pat Summitt coached here? And he always laughs, stop it. But tell us about some of the Tell us about some of the
Well, I mean,
successes. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Tell us about some of the successes that your team had at Tennessee during your time in Knoxville.
Well, if you rewind 20 years ago, we were a letdown to Lady Vol Nation because we didn't win a national championship while I was there. But fast forward to now, I realized how successful of a college career I had in the 4 years I was there. We won 4 SEC championships. We went to 2 Final Fours. And it was just crazy that us not winning a championship was like we had a bad season.
Right,
When most programs just ride on the fact of even getting into the NCAA tournament, if we didn't win it, it was like, oh, man, you let the whole state down. Like, what's wrong with Pats? You can't get our girls together because they won those 3 in a row, and there was a 7-year drought. They didn't win another one until Candace Parker got there. And they won 2 more, I believe, with her there. So it was great. I mean, we didn't lose a whole lot at all. We didn't lose more than probably 4 games per season, to be honest. A lot of great opportunities, got to go overseas for a summer and play. And, I mean, we saw a lot. And that was really good at making sure we got the experience of whatever city we were in as well. You know, it wasn't just all about basketball. It's about, you know, if we went to New York, make sure that we got to go see Statue of Liberty or something like that, Times Square. It was just a full experience. It was more than just basketball. Right.
So you play your college career, very successful. Team was really good. Vols Nation, you know, is tough. You didn't win a national championship during those 4 years, but you won SEC championships, went to Final Fours. College career comes to an end. You walk the stage, you graduate, and then what?
Well, I was determined to be normal, and, you know, I was going to be a school teacher, get married, have kids, and just have a 9-to-5. But that didn't happen at all. I got the opportunity to work out with the Charlotte Sting, and I didn't make the final cut for that team. So then I went overseas to France and got to play a season there. And after that, there was a developmental league in the States. And I played a season for them with a team out of Knoxville. And honestly, like I said, after college, I was prepared and ready to go on with life, but I kept on getting these great opportunities to play. So I kept playing. After that, after my playing was over, I coached with my dad at Taylor. I was involved with all kinds of camps, and I was just always around the game. Even though I said I was done, I was still involved in the game all the time. And then got an opportunity to go to South Florida. That was 2005 was my first gig. I was in South Florida for 3 years, and I was a part of the coaching staff that took their team to the NCAA for the very first time in school history. Was at Hofstra for a year after that up in New York. And then I was at Kentucky for 5. And those 5 years at Kentucky were amazing. We rebuilt that program. We did things that hadn't been done in 30-plus years there. We put Kentucky back on the map as far as the women's side was concerned. And then we all kind of went our separate ways. And I'm at Middle Tennessee now. I just completed my 6th season at Middle Tennessee. And we've had a lot of success here, NCAA appearances, NIT appearances, Conference USA championship. So still doing pretty well.
You've been very blessed in terms of basketball. I always say if you're good to the game will be good to you, and you've definitely been good to the game, so it's rewarded you beyond measure. So after you complete your playing career, you know, you just walked us through some of your college experiences, and so now I want you to talk to some of our girl listeners. What were some of the obstacles that you faced growing up playing basketball and playing sports and just fighting for respect as a hooper and not just a girl, you know, not just a girl's quote unquote basketball player? You know, what were some of the obstacles or some of the things that you would hear?
Well, it was not until I got older, really, like high school, maybe a little bit of middle school, but high school is when I really started playing with grown men and things like that. And a lot of times I go on the court, I'm a girl, they're just long, dangly, whatever. Like, whatever. Like, I'll take the girl. Like, man, I don't want to guard no girl. Like, all that kind of stuff. And then after they caught a couple blows to the ribs, they understood that I was just as tough as they were.
Right.
And you know, and it'll always be entertaining to see people try to turn their game up, you know, after I get a couple buckets on them or something like that. And that just, it just taught me to be competitive. I was a big tomboy coming up. I was always playing with the guys and on the court with the guys. So I think that's what kind of made me tougher in the game.
We spent a couple of times at the basketball court in Ripley, and I'm not going to say what happened, but
you want me to say what happened?
No, I'm going to go to the next question. Tell us about some of the people who have had the biggest influence on your life in basketball, and not just in basketball, but in life.
Well, we always talk about Dan and what a big influence he was on the court, and he was off the court as well. But my mom, Ann Pillow, played a huge part as well. She was the one that made sure that my academics were straight. She was the one that kept me in check. You know, she wanted me to go to a different school because she thought the academics were better. You know, she kept things in perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, Dad and I were about ball. We just wanted to hoop. You know, we
right.
wanted to, we want to watch ball. We wanted to play ball. We had the school ground. And I know there's many arguments probably behind the scenes with my mom and dad when Mom was trying to get me to do schoolwork. And I was like, just let me play one more game, you know. And Dad would be like, let her play. It's okay. She'll get it done or stuff like that. But my mom really was at the forefront of making sure that I was on track and that my head didn't get too big in certain situations and just how to carry myself as a young woman as well.
There are two people that I want to touch on briefly because if either one of us talk about them too much, it may become more of a emotional podcast instead of a positive podcast. But I know that they're extremely special to you. They're very special to me, and they're gone now, but not forgotten. Your grandparents, Miss Ann and Mr. Tom Bennett. How special were those people and those trips to Ripley as a child?
Man, ain't nothing like Ripley, Ohio. Ain't nothing like Miss Ann and Tom Bennett. Like, those were great times. And, you know, we're childhood friends just because, you know, of my trips and everything to Ripley. And that's everybody in Ripley's family, too. But just like I said, my mom was really influential. My grandmother was, too, especially when it came to women's rights and, you know, standing up for what's right and the way you carry yourself. I mean, there's a lot of things I learned from my grandmother that I had no idea about as far as women's history, like things that we take for granted, like voting and things like that. Ms. Ann and Elizabeth made sure that we were aware of our history.
Right. She had it down, didn't she?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then we talk about the difference between girls and boys. Like, I wanted to go fishing so bad with Grandpa Bennett. He always took the boys fishing. And I was like, can I go? He's like, you going to put that worm on that hook? I was like, can't somebody else put the worm on the hook, Grandpa? Let's go fishing. Like, I don't want to be in the kitchen frying the fish. Like, I want to go catch the fish. He's like, if you can't put that worm on the hook, baby girl, I can't let you go. I was like, oh. So, as big as a tomboy I was, I did not want anything to do with those daggone worms. Like, just let me fish.
I tell Brandon still sometimes, you know, we'll meet at practice. I'll get to practice, and he'll come to practice, and I'll just tell him, I say, you know, the whole way the drive to practice, I would think sometimes, and it happens often, about the smell of fried catfish in that small kitchen and how hot that house was.
Gosh, the house stayed hot all year round. It didn't matter if it was winter or summer. It was always blazing.
You know, and I would tell, you know, I would go in the house. I'd be on 3rd Street for something, and I would go in the house, and I'd just stop in there to get some water or get something to drink. And I would say, Miss Ann, Brian had 20 points and 14 rebounds last night, and she was never impressed. You know,
Right.
You know, and me and Mr. Tom, we might talk about it, but she would just She never impressed. You know, he better be going to class. That's what he better be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, her mission was always bigger than basketball, you know.
Right.
You come from a large family of great athletes, and we've talked, you know, briefly on Brian and the Xavier experience, and you and your career, and, you know, scoring a lot of points and a lot of rebounds and playing at the University of Tennessee. And, you know, we haven't mentioned Brandon. Brandon scored over 1,000 points, you know, and your dad was a prolific athlete in high school, and you know, even after he went to the Army, but he still stayed involved in sports for his life, you know, the rest of his life. And how important was it to you to maximize your potential, knowing what you came from? Because everything that you came from was greatness. You know, Brandon was great. I tell people all the time, Brandon probably could have played in the NBA had Brian not made it to the NBA first. You know, I mean, if Brandon had it all to go back and do over again, and I'm not saying that he would have done things any different, but I think his thought process may have been a little different, because Brandon was probably, when I was growing up, he was as good as anybody else in the country. Like the ESPN games that they would show where Lawrence Moten was in high school, or those guys from New Jersey were in high school, Brandon was as good as them. And he could jump, and he could shoot, and he could score, and he could defend. And he was a great basketball player. And people don't know that because they just know he's Brian's brother. Now, people from around here know that, and people in Sacramento, when he went out there to work, and people in Miami know that because he played in those pro-am leagues and was one of the best players in those leagues. But how important was it to maximize your potential, knowing that Brian and Brandon and so many family members had done so much?
I think it's just part of our DNA. I mean, just look at our family who didn't play sports and didn't have the opportunity. Like, my grandmother and mother both talked about, if they could play basketball the way basketball is played now, like, they would have been all over it. But mom was a volleyball player.
Right.
But it didn't matter if it was sports or what it was. We were just a family that was taught to work hard and do the best you can in whatever it was, you know? So it just happened to be sports for me. But for my sister, I mean, she is very good academically. She's an associate dean of students, or assistant dean of students at a university in Boston right now. My brother's a DJ. He's one of the best DJs in Cincinnati.
In the city,
and it's just like, I mean, he goes around the world DJing. He's DJs for our troops and stuff.
Right.
Excuse me. So, but it's just like the work ethic that our grandparents and parents have instilled in us has just gone through generation to generation to generation. And I mean, that's something that a lot of kids are missing now. You know, there's just so much social media, and there's so much hype around everything, and you haven't really done anything yet. You know, it's just like, you just repost or post something that someone says, and all of a sudden you get credibility when you haven't really put the work and everything in yet.
Now, I want to do something, and this is something that I normally don't do, but there is a little girl, and I need you to know this before I ask you my last question. There's a little girl, and she is in Ripley, Ohio right now. And her name is Asia Williams. And you need to get some film on her and to take a strong look at her, because I can't judge women's basketball like men's. Like, I can't tell, because size and stuff doesn't have as much to do with it necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a 5'6" kid and a 5'8" kid in boys basketball, he has to be the best player on the court every time he plays in high school. But from a girl standpoint, she's not the biggest, but she's really athletic. She's really smart. She can really shoot it. She transferred from Milford. And she is at Ripley this year. It's Nate's daughter, Nate and Desi's daughter. And her name's Asia Williams. So just do me a favor and find some film on her. If you need it, I'll try to get it for you, because I think that Middle Tennessee State can use a point guard. of her caliber. She just scored her 1,000th point as a junior, and she's got a whole nother year to go. She's
great.
She's a baller. So I'm going to put that plug out there for her. In closing, do you feel that women's basketball and just sports in general are continuing to grow, or do you feel like women's sports will never get the full-on respect as men's athletics? And if so, what do you feel like high school administrators, college boards of regents, professional league commissioners, and owners could do better to promote the women's sport?
Well, I think we start so far behind the men that it's going to be a constant catch-up game. But organizations like the WNBA had made a huge step up in salaries this past year. Now I hope that they get to play with COVID and everything. But, I mean, it was a big deal when the WNBA stepped up and said, we're going to try to compensate these women so they don't have to go overseas and play. They don't have to leave their families. You know, that's another hurdle that some women athletes face, is having a family and, you know, carrying a child and all that kind of stuff. So if we can keep them in the States and they can still be with their families and things, that's a win for WNBA. I think another thing, since basketball is my sport, as far as the WNBA, I mean, if they can expand, I don't know the ins and outs of the finances and everything like that, but there are so many talented athletes who don't get the opportunity to play in the WNBA because there's not a lot of teams. I mean, and then the longevity. I mean, everybody, a lot of women athletes play until they're 38, 40 years old. So it's not like a lot of turnover. Once you're in, like, you're in, and it's hard to lose your spot unless there's an injury or something along those lines. But as far as lower levels, collegiate levels, I mean, I think that at Middle Tennessee State, our AD, Chris Massar, does a great job of making sure we get everything that the men get. We get the same facilities. I mean, in practice, we're equal there for sure. But it's not like that everywhere. Yeah, and
a lot of those ADs make sure that the Title IX department's not coming to their university. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a lot of those ADs.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. And again, I mean, that takes us full circle. That takes us back to Pat Summitt. I mean, she was on the front lines. She was a trailblazer as far as Title IX was concerned. And again, that's stuff that we don't realize that we're witnessing it in when we get to play for somebody of that magnitude. But I mean, she did so much for all the college sports. And the women who are that you mentioned before, like Coach McGraw and Don Staley and all those, I mean, they continue to do those type of things. As long as we keep on talking about it and keep on making it known, like, there's going to continue to be growth. As long as we don't sit back in silence and accept it, you know, there's nothing more to happen but to have continued growth in sports across the board.
Shalon, it was a privilege to get a chance to catch up. You're so busy and so important and world renowned, and I just, you know, we don't see each other anymore, but thanks for joining us on the show tonight. It was a great show. She got game, Divas of the Hardwood, and usually my first guest of the series is my guest that I feel like can kick off the series and you know, get listeners and be an interesting conversation. And tonight was exactly that. I've got Brian coming on in a couple of weeks I've got a Xavier versus UC series. So one week will be all UC and the next week will be all Xavier past players. And it's going to be a very good series. And I'm currently working on it now. So, you know, thanks for helping this show continue to grow. And I'll do whatever I can. And with my part, I try to support female athletics as much as possible. You know, one of the things that I've noticed is there's just not as many girls that are actively involved. Most girls that play sports are good at the sport that they play. And if they're not good, they don't. Like, if you go to a park, every dude there thinks they can hoop. Everybody thinks they're nice. You know what I mean? Like, they might not be able to shoot a left-handed layup if they were in a gym by themselves. But they think they're nice in a 5-on-5 game because they can knock down a couple open jumpers or something. That's not how it works. You don't see a lot of pickup women's games. And for me, the biggest thing to get women's sports to evolve is get more girls involved, you know? And I think like at a lot of schools that there's not numbers to, you know, to have when I went to Felicity, there was no freshman team. We had 14 or 16 kids total. I canvassed the halls one day and asked a bunch of kids to play basketball. We've had a freshman team ever since. Now we're at 28 or 30 kids because boys will participate, but girls have to be good at something in order for them to do it. Girls just don't do things they're not good at. They don't. And that's one of the biggest issues in women's sports, I think, is women, you know, getting more little girls to not be afraid of failure or embarrassment and participate. Because I think with me, when I coach girls, I found out girls are easier and better to coach than boys because they do what you ask. You know, like every boy thinks that they've got something about their game that doesn't need coached. You know, like I don't need you to work with me on my jump shot. I'm a good shooter. If you take a girl's shot and you try to tweak it a little bit, they'll let you tweak it. You know, if you ask girls to run a play, they may not make the layup, but they'll get to the spot on the floor that they're supposed to be every single time, you know? And so those are some of the qualities that girls athletes have that some boys lack, but the biggest part is participation and getting them to play. So, you know, we need to, as a culture, make a move to get more young ladies involved in sports because I think that's where a lot of it lacks is not having enough, you know, not being enough participation. So thanks for joining us, Shalon. It was a great conversation. This podcast 29, episode 29 is brought to you by Orab Sports Complex and Anchor.fm. And Shalon, if you need anything, you let me know, and I'll try to get you some tape on Asia Williams because you need her in your program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Jason. It was great to see you.
All right. See ya. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. So that is it. That's episode 29 of Orab Sports Complex. Talk sports to me. I'm your host, the sports guru. And tomorrow we'll be back with another great guest. She Got Game, Divas of the Hardwood. That's this week's series. We'll have 4 shows this week. So stay tuned, 7 o'clock every night this week. And you will catch a great conversation between me and a young lady somewhere in America that is making a push to be the next great female athlete. All that, much more, this week. And She Got Game, Divas of the Hardwood. I'm out. Mm-hmm.